Hey, long time no see. So, in the time between the last video I posted and this one, I've been replaying every single dungeon for, like, every 3D Zelda title. Accuracy is pretty important to me, so in doing that, I've been spending more time playing those games. And, figuring out the puzzle structure, what makes a dungeon, yada yada yada. Not what I'm going to be talking about here. I am so fucking tired of Zelda articles, this isn't even fucking funny, brother. Outside of just gameplay and story stuff, I also really enjoy storytelling in games. But something that is super important to storytelling is the connotation in which the story is happening, as well as, like, the emotional tone that they're trying to set in the first place. See, there's a point in storytelling where if you start overlooking or underlooking certain aspects of it, you miss the forest for the trees, or you only see a tree in a forest. And that's not good. I don't believe Ocarina of Time is a tragedy in the slightest. You see, the game has kind of a somber start, but it starts as the beginning of, well, a journey. Link has a nightmare telling him about what's going to happen in the future. How far along in the future, we don't know, but we just know that's going to happen. However, it starts off as the best day ever for him, contrary to what is actually going on. At this point in the story, Link believes himself to be one of the Kokiri, and all the Kokiri have fairies except for him. See, thanks to not having a fairy, their quote-unquote leader, Mito, won't accept him as one of their own. Which, he's not. Mito's right about that. But the thing is, it's still kind of a shitty thing to be faced with, not fitting in and all that fun stuff. And I feel pretty confident that, well, saying that Link is pretty well received. Plenty of people have negative things to say about Mito. Not a lot of people have negative things to say about Link, except for Mito. They refer to Mito as a jerk, and, well, that's not a very good term at all, that was it. It probably sucks being called that. But he also makes people pick up rocks outside of his house, a bunch of other stuff, and it's just kind of bullheaded. It's not a good look. If you come back to Kokiri, if you come back to the Kokiri Forest, wearing a certain mask and talking to certain children, they'll ask if that's how you intend to prank Mito now. Which means Link has obviously done this before. Meaning, he's obviously still had fun, or it's been obviously childish. He's not a mature kid. He's still a bit of a little shit himself. But he's one that's willing to stand up against things that are probably outside of his control at this point. All of this stuff is super important to the character that is displayed. Link is referred to by Mito, someone who definitely wouldn't admit this, that Link is Saria and the Great Deku Tree's favorite. He is their number one, both of theirs. Two of the most influential people in the forest. Saria for being a sage, and the Great Deku Tree for being their protector guardian spirit. Deity. / tree dad. And he's their favorite. So there's some obvious favoritism going on there. Don't really know what any of that means outside of, context or within story, but what we do know is he is well liked. He's not an outsider by any means. A lot of articles I see calling the game extremely tragic never seem to take this stuff into account because I genuinely don't believe they're being written by people at this point. Saying that Link never got to experience childhood whenever, well, he probably hasn't had anything to actually worry about for the first 10 to 7 years of his life at all. Just child things. The Kokiri's forest is kind of sealed off from the rest of Hyrule for their protection. So they aren't exposed to the wars and dangers and monsters of the outside forest. It's just a place for kids to play all day, have some kind of warm meal, and sleep. It is a haven for them. The Great Deku Tree protects them from all sorts of spirits and monsters that are in the forest, and their fairies pretty much guide them through life. It's simple. When Link leaves the Kokiri Forest, he isn't losing any friends. He has a place to come back to. Because, to his knowledge, the place is not going to cease to exist when he leaves. Saria gives him the fairy ocarina as a memento, something to think of her by whenever he's on his quest. And he does. And not only that, literally 2 in-game days minimum after, you'll probably end up heading back to the Kokiri Forest to learn Saria's song. After this, he is permanently in contact with her. Regardless of where he is and how far he travels, he can get a hold of her and talk to her. He can tell her about his adventure, ask her about things that he's seeing, and it's really nice. It's something small, but it's like having your best friend, one of your best friends at this point, as a pen pal you can reach anytime. It's literally a medieval cell phone for them. So let's talk about that real quick. Timeline of events. Link wakes up, finds Sigokiri's sword, buys a shield, slays Goma. Ryotegotri dies. He leaves the forest, meets with Saria. As he's leaving, he stopped. They talk for a minute. She admits that she knew he would leave the forest and he wasn't like the rest of them. But she still says they'll be friends forever, and she gives him the fairy ocarina. This is all seeming like it lines up, right? So, he leaves the forest with a gift from his friend, and she tells him to thank her before he heads out to the rest of the world. After this, it'll take you about a full day to get across Hyrule Field. So, 6 hours, and then like 12 hours, and then 12 more hours sitting outside, waiting for the gate to come down. After this, you proceed to Hyrule Castle, have to wait a day because, you know, Malin's dad, Talon, needs to wake up. And then, after that, you meet Zelda. It has been 2 days so far. Afterwards, you can hit in, go to Kakariko Village, and go up Death Mountain. At which point, it's probably going to be maybe evening by then. If not, at least hitting night. So let's count it as 3 days. You can meet Darunia. Unless you take the fast route back, then you are going to at least add another 2 days onto it. So Link has been gone, let's see here, a quotation marks minimum of, in quotation marks, 5 days in universe at this point. He's left the forest 5 days ago. Not even a full week. So when he meets back up with Saria and, you know, learns their song, they now have each other on speed dial. So, I know it's a slop article, but at this point I'm gonna ask, when did Link lose his friends? If anything, he's only gained things from the adventure. He's learned how big the world is, he's gotten to meet new people. He now has a fairy companion in the form of Navi, and a purpose. He has something that he wants to do with life. Not to say probably didn't before, but it now expands beyond just what it used to be. He's made plenty of friends at this point. If anything, his world is expanding. He's gaining things to fight for with every single person he meets. That doesn't seem tragic at all, yet. There is one part about that could be seen as tragic, and we'll get to that very shortly. So, after befriending Zelda, promising to help her stop Ganon, meeting Impa, later meeting Darunia, befriending and becoming Darunia's sworn brother, becoming a brother to all of the Gorons, becoming Ruto's fiancé, and, you know, meeting his new stepdad. It's really nice. He's got a lot of people rooting for him in his corner, and he's shown people what he's capable of. He's done that himself through his own courage and determination. That's sweet. But here's a kicker. Something, and part of the reason why I think that article was fucking AI generated, or the person just lacks reading comprehension. I'm honestly gonna hope it's the first. See that part right there at the bottom? Little did Link and Zelda know that Ganondorf was unable to acquire the sacred stones and enter the Temple of Time on his own. That's the entire reason he fucking did all that shit. That's why he cursed the Deku Tree. That's why he blocked off the Goron's food supply of, like, Gucci food. And that's why I'm pretty sure he baited Ruto into getting kidnapped by inflicting Jabu with parasites. Not to mention, Link is the one hunting down the spiritual stones so that Ganondorf can't get them. They definitely know about that. That was their entire plan. What they didn't account for was Ganondorf hiking it to the Sacred Realm immediately after Link entered the Temple of Time and entered the chamber to grab the Master Sword. If anything could be considered a tragedy at this point. It's the fact that doing nothing at all would have been far more beneficial to potentially Hyrule as a whole over, I don't know, having opened that door. Again, this is about the only part I could consider tragedy, because the honest-to-goodness goodwill of two children whose only desire was to stop tragedy before it could occur ended up being manipulated by someone much more smart than them, and had their kindness used against them, throwing Hyrule into disarray that I think might have only started once Link actually woke up. But the thing is, Link is immediately filled in by Rauru that he entered that sleep because he wouldn't have been ready for it. This was his fighting chance. Thanks to having the Master Sword, he has a fighting chance against Ganondorf. He just has to go free the other sages now. And some of them happen to be people who knows, so he's going to reconnect with those friends and make sure that they're doing fine. See, here's the odd thing about this game at this point. It's hard to tell whether or not Ganondorf knew Link was back after that 7-year period. He's got eyes everywhere, weirdly enough, but the thing is, I personally feel like he only really gains knowledge of Link being back once the Force Temple is complete. Before that, he had to have had no clue. Because, otherwise, let's see here. Sure, Zoro's domain is already frozen, but when did he freeze it? How long ago during that 7-year period was it? It had to be recent according to all the information in the game, but in addition to that, how long ago were the Gorons locked up to be used as food for Vavagia? Again, all of this stuff seems like a pretty recent ordeal, aside from Nabooru. And that only gets to happen in that particular order because, well, Nabooru met Link. I'm sure Quom and Kotake still took care of her, but I feel like his interference kind of did work out for the better of things in that case. So, having lost that 7-year period of time, and having to come back to Hyrule, which is not necessarily in, like, ruins or anything like that, but, like, is very heavily oppressed and some bad things have definitely happened, he gets to save it. By the end of the game, him and Zelda are able to undo everything and they have stopped Ganondorf. On that, but Link gets to go back in time to stop those events from ever having happened in the first place. He got to go on this massive journey and isn't remembered as a hero, except for the fact that he is. See, Link going back in time and stopping Ganondorf's coup from happening in the first place prevents a whole number of messes from getting started. Not to mention that timeline Link left didn't suddenly cease to exist. It continued existing. That's where Wind Waker comes in. In the timeline that Link did get sent back to, his original, here's what happened. Ganondorf was stopped preemptively. However, Ganondorf being stopped doesn't fix two massive issues. Ruto being missing, and Dodongo's cavern being blocked. Those are still problems that Link more than likely had to solve on his own. But also, if Link managed to do those before he had met Zelda in the first place, here's what happens with that. He is not only able to get both Darunia and King Zora to vouch for him on what has gone on, meaning the king now knows of his treachery way further ahead of time, but also during that meeting, he's able to probably get Ganondorf apprehended so they can find proof. It just makes things go over nicer. He still gets those friends, he still makes those connections. He just now knows his friends never have to go through those hardships. I feel like him and Darunia would still absolutely be sworn brothers, even more so now that Link isn't just going after the Goron Ruby, but is doing this for a friend he knows much better than one that knows him, if that makes any sense. And for Ruto, not only does he look cool during all of that, he also gets the added benefit of probably not getting to, you know, get kind of strung into being her fiancé in the first place. He's very much gets to tell her, hey, yeah, no, I just came to save you, because I'm a cool dude like that, which would probably make her swan more over him. And that's it. Impa probably recognizes his skill, and Nabooru finds her people freed by this mysterious child, who she might inevitably meet in the first place. They're put off in a much better situation. Not to mention, someone's probably gonna deal with Quilm and Kotaka in the first place, because they are absolutely still mind-controlling, Gerudos. So, with Navi having left and Link having accomplished all this, depending on how much time it takes, I'd say he's pretty fair off to being remembered in a good manner by everyone else around him. He's done a lot, having come from nowhere, and honestly, it's kind of like a miracle that he even did all that. Enter Majora's Mask. In the land of Hyrule, there echoes a legend held dearly by the royal family that tells of a boy who, after battling evil and saving Hyrule, crept away from the land that had made him a legend. Done with the battles that he once waged across time, he embarked on a journey, a secret and personal journey, a journey in search of a beloved and invaluable friend, a friend with whom he parted ways with when he finally fulfilled his heroic destiny and took his place among legends. So, clearly, the royal family of Hyrule has some idea about what this boy has done, and he has done something. He didn't just walk in and say, hey, that guy's guilty. That's not going to get him any credit. That's not actually going to earn anything. He can walk in there with a Triforce displayed on his hand, which is probably going to get him some level of recognition, an immense level of recognition. But, again, there are still existing problems in the world. Though, I guarantee you, Ganondorf would shit himself if he saw that shit happen. Now, let's get into, again, Majora's Mask. If Link was really torn up over not being remembered as a hero above all else... Oh wait, no, I didn't finish the article. Here's the good part. Now, you see, if you read this part here, no one knows what he sacrificed. Okay, sure, trials and tribulations, it's dangerous. Navi not returning, well, she completed her duty too, and might not feel right staying with him. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's written that she apparently loved him, but knew they couldn't be together. And now for the final kicker. To return to the Kokiri Forest without a ferry only leads one to one fate, becoming a Stalfos. Where did Link live without a ferry before this journey started? Weird. Alright, now we can move on to Majora's Mask. See, riding around on his way to go find Navi, an undisclosed amount of time since his past journey has occurred. If you look in the game files for Ocarina of Time, it lists his age as being 10. And here's the funny thing about that, right? It's 10 in the Master Quest realm with the map select. You check the cutting room floor, it says 5, and then for adult Link it's 17. 7 years have passed, so obviously it's 10. That makes sense, right? You boot up Majora's Mask, you do about the same thing, map select. It'll list Link's age as, get this, 5 again. It'll have Deku Link listed as 12. I'm much more inclined to believe that maybe 2 years have actually passed between them, because Link's voice is a little deeper, he carries himself differently as far as hair is concerned, and bro just looks more fit. Sure, those are just graphical upgrades, but I honestly look at those as something very important, especially with the way he handles the situation overall. See, he's shocked to have lost Epona. He falls down the Deku Leaf with a surprise because he didn't take damage. Yada yada, it goes on. But the part that gets me the most is, after having been knocked down by Tattle, and told that he needs to help her now, being very familiar with Tsunderes at this point, Link looks towards the camera and shrugs. Classic anime emote. It's concerning, but it's also probably not something he's considering himself like consigned to forever. Especially not since a little while later, when he runs into Type Mass Salesman, he's pretty much told, hey, you do this and I can fix you. He's very familiar with magic. It's just the price of that was, again, getting back the Happy Mass Salesman's mask, Majora's Mask. If Link losing 7 years of his life, apparently, was a tragedy before, this would count as his personal heaven, and I'll explain why shortly. See, there are 104 days of summer vacation, and in 7 years, there are 2,556 days. And, 3/4 of a day. How many 3-day cycles fit within that? Spoiler alert, it's 852 and a quarter of a day. The thing that really gets me about Majora's Mask is, last time Link didn't have time to really save anyone until things had already gone wrong. He didn't really have any time to spend with them either. He met those people and had to very quickly move on because, well, events kept moving forward. He became friends with Darunia, Ruto, Zelda, Impa, all of them, Shiro, the Knight. yada yada yada. I'm pretty sure that's not actually his name. But he got to make friends with all these people, and then he went 7 years ahead in the future, and then suddenly things have very much changed. In Majora's Mask, the issue is things are very much staying the same. Link will travel back in time multiple times throughout the game. But with this comes the ability to save and influence everyone, to see everyone's happy ending and to help them all, because now you have nothing but time on your hands. Here are Link's lose conditions. Lose condition 1, give up. Lose condition 2, die. I don't think he's going to do either of those things because, well, he's the spitting embodiment of heroism in this game. If he was really torn about not being remembered as a hero, I think this game would have sorted that out real fucking quick. One of the first things that happens to Link after he finally gets back to being a human is that he goes to the swamp. There, he gets to re-meet Kom and Kotake, two witches who basically work, I don't know, a desk job and who grows potions. Pretty simple. But after that, he gets to meet with a monkey who is being blamed for the kidnapping of a princess. This monkey very much did not kidnap her, but he tries to warn them about the awful fate that will befall her if nothing is done, because she was kidnapped by Oldawa. Pretty simple, right? After Link saves her, in a case that is very much kind of reminiscent of both Zelda and Ruto's cases and character, he is very much acknowledged as being a hero for them. They realize it is him regardless which form it takes, which is very unique within the game. They note him as having strange powers. No one else in the fucking game will acknowledge this whatsoever. Even if he transforms right from their face, these are the only people who go, yeah, that's still him, that's the green guy. When we get to Snowhead, here's what happens. Their hero died getting blown off a cliff thanks to friendly fire. Link subs in for him to save all their people and stop them from freezing to death or starving to death, or worst case scenario, both. He does this and it is attributed to Darmani, their hero. Link can also go on to complete the Goron race, which is again attributed to Darmani, their hero. At this point, we know very well he could just tell them that Darmani died. He doesn't. I'm presuming they figured that out on their own. They have a grave built for Darmani, but it'd be really crazy, at least in their culture, if Darmani refused to stay dead, came back from the dead, saved them all, participated in the Goron races, and then went on to finally vanish. And that was the last anyone ever saw of him. He had a great time, saved everyone, and then left, and that was it. Or Macau was a dad who simply wanted to get his children back from the Gerudo thieves who stole them. He died attempting this. If the last thing hadn't ironed things out for Link, having to go rescue multiple children in the stead of their father, and then being recognized as his own person by, I guess, their father, would have more than likely done it. Not to mention, when we get to Ikana, he's pretty much fighting over a dead kingdom. He helps soldiers move on from what they've been fighting for, and just generally sets things right. Again, these people recognize him as what he is, a hero. And alongside him, Tattle will never forget. She's right there with him, and she chose to be right there with him. She could have easily buzzed off after finding out what was going on. Spirit Tracks Zelda tried that, and she actually had tied back into it. But Tattle chose to accompany Link, because Link was fighting to help save her brother. She got to see everything that he's done, and she acknowledges this. If you go to, I don't know, complete the game a second time, not only will she kind of break the fourth wall, revealing that maybe they went back for a fucking encore because Blink decided he wanted to help everyone, but also she notes that he never gives up. She also notes that he kind of misses stuff quite often, and it shows a lot of concern that he doesn't know what a few creatures are. It's really neat stuff. All of these things, as well as how he reacts to certain side quests, tell us about the kind of person he is. characterization is incredibly important. I'm bringing this up because Majora's Mask is not a sad or depressing game. It's about how the right person being in the right place can make all the difference. Link being around and sticking around is the only reason Termina was able to get out of that. But in addition to him being the only reason that Termina was able to even continue existing, he also willingly makes the choice to go and help everyone. If you're saying that he always 100% completes the game, at least as far as side quests are concerned. That doesn't seem like the kind of effort that somebody who's just sad and really wants to get back to looking for a friend would do. He realized that the people around him were suffering and that he had the potential to save them all this time. And here's the best thing about it. You can do a playthrough of the game on your last cycle that pretty much guarantees the best ending for everyone else. There are a remarkable amount of side quests that are tied to events that are going on thanks to the moon. But the thing is, a lot of the really bad ones are going on independently of the moon. All these really bad ones are things you can also solve by going as fast as possible and using the song of double time, or reverse time, or slow down time. The inverted song of time. Anyways, this list consists of, again, repairing the Great Fairy of Clocktown, immediately after that, heading to the swamp. Save Koumor Kotake, I can't remember which one it is in this case. Save the Brother Monkey. Race with the Deku Butler after saving the princess. Show the dude up there in the little gallery, or little boat shop, a picture of Tingle, his son. Let him know his son's doing okay. Move on. Go to Romani Ranch, promise Romani that you'll be there to help her out at night. Next up, go complete Snow Hit. Go do the Goron race. Okay. After that, go help out Romani. Alright? I hope you didn't forget to set the Cafe and Anju side quest. At night, even though you definitely have the time for it, if you set things up right, you absolutely should not help the old lady. She can get robbed, but things will be fine, because she's fine and her son is happy just to have her. It is something bad that happened, but sometimes those bad things just happen, and they're happy to be okay at the end of it. Don't forget to go visit the graveyard to awaken Sharp after battling Skull Kida. That way, he can know that you're going to set his brother's soul free after already releasing him. That's good. You're on the right track now. After that, everything is pretty simple. You just continue with the Cafe and Anju side quest, make sure all the kids are free, and pretty much just make sure everyone has those connections, and there are nice things going on for them. The Cafe and Anju side quest is basically the biggest gap. I'd say you're fair to not really do Romani Ranch's Day 2 events, because, well, sure, if the milk doesn't get there, that's money lost, but at the end of the day, that's money they can get back, because the road is no longer blocked and the moon is no longer going to be falling. I'm sure Romani would feel a lot better if her sister was able to get there safe, so that's the reason why you probably should do it, but at the end of the day, she's able to get there unharmed. They were only aiming to destroy the milk. That's it. Oh, speaking of the brothers, you should probably go play the Windfish Ballade. You know, get Gorman back on his feet. Show the Rosa sisters how to dance, all that fun stuff. Basically set things up that the festival will be the best one yet. Which also means getting the guards and the construction workers to stop fighting. Just a few things to do. Oh yeah, don't forget to, reconnect the seahorses, so I'm sure we'll be doing that as a result of, making sure that the eggs got back to the lab. All super fine stuff. You don't have to get the guy the picture of the Gerudo. I'm sure we'll be able to live without that. But yeah, aside from that, it's pretty easy to make as many people as possible happy. Also, don't forget about Pamela and her dad. Please do not forget about Pamela and her dad. After that, just complete all the dungeons, and you're good to go. That's that. Oh yeah, the Swamp Spider House. You can't forget about that. You can't leave a guy cursed there for all of eternity. That's just kind of cruel, and there's no reason to do that if you know you can stop it. Additionally, you should probably let Kabe's mom know that he's alright. I'm sure she'll figure that out when the wedding starts happening, but having a letter that shows that, yes, he does exist would be nice. And you can also let the postman go, which is also nice. You don't have to complete every single side quest during that last run because not everyone is absolutely vital to people being able to be happy. And that just comes out stopping the moon. Regardless of if you do this, as long as you've completed every side quest, the best ending possible will play to begin with. It's nice. After not being able to save anyone or have any kind of positive effect on them, Link is finally given the power to take his time, take as much time as he needs to within that 3-day period, and do whatever he wants. It's honestly, again, his own personal heaven. It seems like a war to him. Things just continuously go his way during the events of this game. The Goddess of Time is looking out for him. And, you know, the Goddess of Time being highly or some shit like that, I don't fucking know. It might be a kind of meta-narrative, but they obviously weren't thinking of that when they originally wrote this shit, so it doesn't really matter at all. What does matter is that this shows us that he is a kind and caring boy, and that he will absolutely do what he needs to make sure that people are doing fine, and that he can help them. He's a good kid, at the end of the day. A really good one, who will do what he can to assist people he cares about, or who he can see definitely needs the help. And that's nice. Link is a paragon. He, again, actively stands up against evil and does the right thing to help everyone around him. Him wielding the Blade of Evil's Bane is the entire reason that things were able to get better. And sure, he can fail during that battle against Ganondorf, whatever that means. It could be that, you know, he's either too exhausted or they're unable to completely seal Ganon, meaning that he's still alive, but they had to seal Ganon away without actually dealing the death blow, yada yada. There's a whole numerous things. Falling in the battle could simply mean him being rendered unconscious, and they just had to force seal him emergency style. It doesn't get rid of the issue, and again, he does fail during that timeline, which he might walk away as kind of a failure, but all things considered, he still made that possible. Collapsing doesn't mean death, but we can definitely take it as that because that's what everyone seems to regard it as. And that's fine. If he's anything like Skyward Sword Link, you know bro's not going to go down without a fight. He's going to fight till his last breath. That and, you know, Giant Pig Ganon kind of hit super fucking hard, so bro probably died during that. But that's fine. He died a noble death, making sure that evil was stopped, even if it cost him his life. That is where that sacrifice comes from. And that's it. Now I'm going to get into kind of hazy stuff. The manga, for Ocarina of Time, was released in 2002. Not 2002, but 2000. Which would have been whenever Majora's Mask was coming out. Majora's Mask manga was released in 2001. Both of these being, you know, in Japan only at the time. Very important, because they very clearly illustrate how Link is supposed to be. They are both endorsed by Nintendo, and while it's kind of hazy to say that because Twilight Princess is very far and away from, well, just generally the kind of character Link seems to be in that game, I think that's just because of the time that's passed since then. It's the same writer, so it's hard to say this, and it seems a little bit pig-headed, but Twilight Princess Link is just irresponsible. Like, he does a lot of stuff and doesn't correct the kids on a lot of shit that just inevitably ends up getting them back in trouble. But he's also a good guy. But we're not talking about him right now. You see, the entire scene about, like, Link leaving the forest being, like, a tragic moment where he runs away awkwardly. Here's what it looks like in the manga. Link running with his head down, leaving the forest, obviously not looking. He turns around to see Saria, asking if he's going. They talk, have a short conversation, but the lines of dialogue exchanged here are that Link always thought he was different from everyone. Like he's from somewhere, finishing the sentence, else. Saria catching on to that, but he says the forest is his home, and she agrees. Comparing this to the actual in-game cutscene, it's just like in the manga, for obvious reasons, because the manga was based on the game, very clearly. But Saria brings up that she knew he would leave the forest, and that he's different. But that's okay, because they'll always be friends forever. And then she gives him the ocarina. it would be very easy to basically insert Link's dialogue about him being different in the first place, or feeling like he was different from the get-go, in that spot, and moving on from there. It doesn't really break anything at all. What does break something is the fact that Volvagia was apparently Link's pet dragon, and that's kind of a big-ass mess because, well, as you know, in-game, it's an evil dragon that has fucked with the Gorons before, and they had a weapon just for killing it. There are obvious parts that match and that definitely don't match, but what does match is character portrayal, which is, again, very important. I think there's one fan interpretation of Ocarina of Time Link that I'm actually good with, and that's Linked Universe's interpretation of him. And that's because he very much still has that adult wisdom that you see in Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and Twilight Princess when you get the meet him as the hero Shade, but he's still got that kind of childlike playfulness to him. That part of him never died. He's always got that golden piece of him that is going to remain steadfast and heroic. And that's really nice. I don't know what it is about people wanting to make characters absolute fucking woobies who, like, have so much internalized angst. I don't know what, I don't get the fucking, like, oh, this character needs to suffer so fucking much train. It doesn't make sense to me. There are times where it could be interesting, like Chainsaw Man, and then, like, there's the other 75% of the time. I guess I should definitely count Berserk in that, like, 25%, but it's like, whenever it serves to build up the character or show what they're willing to stand up for and go against, like Spider-Man, it's good. At the same time, also like Spider-Man, there's a point where it just doesn't fucking make sense to have your character getting hit in the shin over and over again, to the point where, like, there's no point in getting up because they've already lost everything worth fighting. And for some reason, a lot of people seem to, I don't know, have it in their heads that that is absolutely a point Link hit. See, even if you want to call Majora's Mask a depressing game, you can look at the artwork and get proven wrong immediately. Now, if you want to take a look at any of these and tell me in which one he looks sad, displaced, uncomfortable, go ahead. Because, well, in about 3 of those, he looks pretty confident in his abilities and, like, has a smile on his face. In the other 3, he's fighting. Of course you're not going to be wearing a smile when you're fighting. You've got a weapon drawn and your life is at risk. But those are very clearly not the expressions of somebody who is, like, going through it. He's smiling on the outside, and if you're saying he's smiling on the outside exclusively, but still goes through and does all these good things for people, I think that makes an even stronger character. At the same time, though, I'm going to call bullshit on that. I'd say the only piece of artwork that is of Link in that game that looks sad would be Deku Link. And Deku Link is just known to look incredibly sad in the first place. So sad that just staring at him could make you start crying, kind of like the, oh yeah, the Deku Butler's son, whose soul is taken from him. I'd go as far as to say his characterization stays probably how it should have stayed whenever he's the hero Shade as well. He's serious. Twilight Princess Link, whenever they first meet, apparently has no courage behind his strikes. He's just swinging with strength. Which, it makes sense, he's been through a lot these past few days. But the number one thing about that is, he is also a grown-ass man. So, when Link lays him on his ass and pretty much tells him, hey man, you're doing me fucking dirty wearing that right now. You need to, like, be able to rep those fucking colors right. It stands out a lot more. It can be read as mean, but the only time he gets upset with him is whenever, well, he's taught him a move, and he's asking him to repeat that move, and bro does not do it. Think about this. Your successor now has the fate of the entire world on his shoulders, and you are teaching these moves specifically so he can use them to survive and win these fights. And bro is just choosing to ignore the lesson that you're providing with. Isn't that gonna miff you a little bit? Like, everything is legitimately riding on this person, and it doesn't seem like they're taking it seriously. There's forgetting, but there's also just seemingly not caring. Which, I'd say about the time that happens, Twilight Princess Link is far beyond that point. He absolutely cares about what's going on. So it's just a response to player input. Anyways, taking that into account, so for Link to, again, give Twilight Link a bit of a harder time for not remembering how to perform these techniques that he just taught him very recently, it makes sense. They are crucial to his survival and Hyrule's safety. But also, he's stuck around because he wants to make sure that Hyrule has somebody who can save it once he's gone. That is what has tethered his spirit to this world. And that's sweet. But also kind of sad. He doesn't feel like he's done enough. He still feels like he needs to do more. The kind of negative people pleaser aspect coming out. But it's not because he wasn't remembered as a hero, it's not because he never found his friend. It's because he wants to help more people. And again, that's the fan-fucking-tastic part about his character. The fact that he wants to help more people, even after everyone he's already probably helped throughout his lifetime. Fucking insane and absolutely goated with the sauce. Busting it down sexual style. I really think that in the attempt to woobify Link, a lot of people have really lost the plot on what he's gone through. A lot of people really home in on the fact that, oh, the poor boy's never had a hug from Crimea during Majora's Mask when the little scene happens. But he just knows it feels nice. And that's fair. He's getting a hug from someone who's just happy to have been helped by him. She doesn't have anything else to offer but a thank you and a hug. Sometimes that can just be all you need. Not some grand, prize or some shit like that, but also the last time that was about to happen, it was from a bunch of Gorons, who would have absolutely snapped them in half like a twig. So, having it happen to you, in the visage of somebody who you've already spent a lot of time with, or not really a lot of time with, but probably has some fond memories of, considering everything that happened at Lon Lon Ranch whenever he was an adult, and even before then, whenever they met up at Hyrule Castletown, it probably feels nice. And that's fair. He's done a lot. How many people have given him things that aren't just material possessions as a reward for what he's done? It's always been that he gets something. It's not super often that it's just like something small as a token of thank you. So I think him being happy with just receiving a hug speaks volumes about his character. He doesn't say it's disappointing or something like that. He just brings up that it's nice to have some kind of, appreciation for his good deed. And that's fine. Because there are, 3 things you can get that I'm pretty sure. You can get the mask for the first time you do it, you can also get rupees, or you can get the hug. So, again, him being fine with receiving a hug from somebody who's happy that he helped them, that's just fucking adorable, man. You don't have to woobify everything. Sure, he doesn't have, his mother, all that fun stuff, but he didn't know her in the first place. I'm not saying that makes it any less valid that he would care about her, but what I am saying is, bro would probably keep looking forward. He's already done her proud by saving Hyrule. And as far as he's concerned, the Great Deku is pretty much his father. He didn't get a normal childhood growing up, but he absolutely did get a childhood, one he spent with friends. And even though he could more than likely return to that, it doesn't seem like it'd be something that he would want to do. He has the power to make an actual change in the world and do things. So he sets off on an actual journey to find his friend. He set off on that journey not to receive recognition, but to find the friend who went through all that with him. And again, that says a fantastic amount about his character. Don't you agree? Anyways, thanks for sticking around this long. This is, again, just a quick post video since while I've been working on the review for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, I decided, hey, what the fuck is a Zelda dungeon? And so I've gone back through every possible game, and I'm replaying all of them right now, to try to figure out what makes a Zelda dungeon, all that fun stuff. But also to really see how much of it actually stacks up and is memorable and is apparently as great as people say they were, even though, well, a lot of them kind of use the same tools and gimmicks, especially Majora's Mask. Anyways, I'm not getting on that topic until later, but I just want to post something, you know, take a little time to complain about dumbass articles from people who seemingly don't know what they're talking about or who are guided by like a blind negligence and the lack of desire to actually fact check their sources and go more into things and do a bit more critical thinking about what they're putting out there. I fucking love running my mouth, and that's the thing. If I could type up long ass fucking journals like I normally do on fucking YouTube videos in the first place and like get some kind of payment or recognition for that, I'd absolutely do that. But you wouldn't catch me dropping some slop that, I don't know, just misses the mark so fucking much. I'm gonna put in a fun little Easter egg. Not really Easter egg, but a little bonus segment that's not gonna really take me long to keep, you know, this up with. But enjoy! You see, I've got my own problems with Tears of the Kingdom's endings and just general storytelling, and I'll get into that later. But something that I'm not going to say it did do wrong is the fact that acts as if preserving things entirely is a good I don't fuck it. What I'm trying to say here is the line Tears of the Kingdom's ending acts as if preserving things entirely how they were before is a grand victory. To win is to return to the status quo. This entirely ignores the fact that Hyrule is a much different place than it was whenever Breath of the Wild was being going on. People are connecting, the races are getting together in one central area, and they're attempting to rebuild a ruined kingdom from what previously would have been impossible. People are working together, technological advancements are being made after having spent 100 years in stasis. Doing they're doing with Zonai tech now is putting them so fucking far ahead of where they were in the past that it's not even funny. Not only that, but what would breaking the status quo be? Ganondorf winning and everyone fucking dying? You want that to be like the victory there? No, here's what happens instead. Link and Zelda sitting there fighting their own battles in their own ways, and absolutely going through it, suffering various amounts of body horror and making huge-ass sacrifices they don't even know would pay off in the last place, are eventually rewarded with being able to exist with one another yet again. Thanks to everything they were willing to give up and all the sacrifices they're willing to make, they were effectively blessed with each other once more. Two star-crossed lovers scattered across time. When was the last time we saw? Oh yeah, Skyward Sword, a literal love story. Now, I don't know, but saying that's undeserved or doesn't fit or doesn't make sense is kind of a fucking dumb point to make.